Hi, Anti-Society! Welcome back to the Anti-Social Planet, and today we are checking out episode 238 of Bleach, and we ended off on the last episode with a little bit of conflict happening between the different Zanpakuto as they, I guess, sort of come to their nature, which is to want to be fighting. They are like weapons and used in that kind of fighting situation, so it's interesting to kind of see how they interact with each other and how they're manifested in like a actual like humanoid form and how their personalities are reflected in that. But we also had Renji like reclaiming his Zanpakutos, so it's a little bit of an interesting and chaotic dynamic now with him and those like two sides to his Zanpakuto. But we also had Ikagu's Zanpakuto going like a little bit rogue in picking a fight with him and seeing how that was kind of all over the place. It was more difficult than anyone would have liked to admit, especially Ikagu, but ended up getting away. The Zanpakuto ended up getting away, and we saw a little hint of Byakuya showing up, who has been missing up to this point. So not sure if we're going to actually see him, if he's going to interact, come back, or if he's working on something in the background, but Ichigo saw him, so we'll have to see how that all pans out. But let's get into this episode, and I'm sure there will be more chaos and hopefully nothing too heartbreaking, because I feel like seeing the Soul Reapers interact with their Zanpakuto just like can either be hilarious in the case of like Ikagu dancing with his, and then like heartbreaking with like Rukia and hers. So let's get into this episode and see where we're gonna end up tonally. In 3, 2, 1, go. True. We know that they can come back to their Zanpakuto though, which is, I mean, their Soul Reaper, which is nice. You know, not gonna lie, this opener, bittersweet after watching the episodes from the Thousand Year Blood War arc stuff. It's like, I feel like where I'm at now, I'm still not over it. It's been a little while since I watched those episodes, and I'm still like not okay. Interesting that I did this though, that I was doing stuff with the Zanpakuto while I was also going into the Thousand Year Blood War arc, because there is like some crossover, I guess, at least with kind of subject matter. Like Zanpakutos are really important in that arc, at least the part that I've seen so far. Um, so it's interesting that they kind of overlapped a little bit. I wonder if we're gonna get to see more of Byakuya in this. I want to see more of Byakuya, not just because, like I said, some of it's bittersweet after that's in your blood work, but also because I don't know. I feel calmer when he's around fighting things that aren't my mate, like Ichigo. I really want to see Shidsui's too, because his whole ability is such a mystery to me that I'm just like, I want to see more of what his abilities are in general. I still think this is a bad idea. Like, why are we running away from all of our backup towards the enemy? The way he did that one-handed though. We love when Ichigo has a flexing moment. I'm assuming he showed up because his Zanpakuto was around and he's like trying to figure out what exactly to do. Ugh. Speaking of bittersweet, it's really hard to see them all like upset because their Zanpakutos are gone. Like it must feel like a part of you is gone, especially if you've been with your Zanpakuto for a really long time. I like the optimism. Who knows? He's not much of a talker. Interesting that he has like the card because isn't Shinsui's Senpakuto's like ability have to do with like games and rules and that kind of a thing? And it might be the flowers we're talking about like Byakuya because of the like cherry blossoms, but it could also be like a reference to his Zanpakuto maybe? I really feel like this running away from people who could help you is a bad idea. Sure, run into the forest. That seems like a good idea. It's not like running into a forest at night is probably the worst thing you can do in most stories. Like, am I the only one who remembers the forest of hollows that we encountered before? You were there, Ichigo. See, this is what I'm saying. Wandering into forest at night, bad. Still powerful though. This is really dramatic music. Like, am I the only one getting Phantom of the Opera vibes? With the like lower end piano? I wonder what he's doing with all of those. Like, is he intentionally going towards a bunch of hollows? Definitely don't go towards the light in the forest at night. That also seems like a bad idea. What are we doing? the shift in the tone. Like, compare this music to the dramatic piano we had before. Oh, hello. Good talk. No comment. Probably my facial expression said enough about that one. Oh, the fight music's coming in. Jeez. It's one way to get his attention. I like how Ichigo's gotten so used to people just knowing who he is that he's like, yeah, that's me. What do you want? Are we just standing by waiting for them to finish arguing? Or are they gotta fight each other? Yeah, you can just leave. They're gonna be at this for a while, apparently. Good call. So I was saying, I'm like, you can just leave. They're gonna be at this for a hot minute. Have they come to get their sabakto? They got this. Are we intentionally going towards hollows? This is my question. Why? in a weakened state too. Because he is interesting to me, because like whose Zanpakuto was he? And where does he go if his Soul Reaper is gone? Oof, don't call her old. Oh, Momo is so precious. Do not hurt her feelings, I swear to God. We like the determination though. Ugh. See, I feel like Momo might have the hardest problem with that, in that I think she sees herself as weak. Unlike, some of the other Soul Reapers, I think that she has a lot of insecurity with that. See, I feel like that might be a sore spot too, with the like having people come back to her if she just waits long enough. I said do not hurt her feelings. See, that's what I was thinking. I'm like, ooh, I like that the rock music came in. You know that it's about to go down when you hear the guitars. You got this. Oof. I like how she's like, I'll look good anyway. You just no effect. We love self-confidence. Nice. Unintentional teamwork, or possibly intentional teamwork, but either way, good job. The drastic shift in music in this episode is throwing me. Oh, I love seeing Momo like have a moment of taking charge and getting a win. She deserves it. She deserves everything. A Sanpakto? Wasn't that where the other guy was before? Careful. Yeah, I'm like, isn't it Toshiro's? Oof, that silence though was very unsettling. Yeah, yeah, everyone knows who he is. Fairly skilled. I mean, I guess he does make up for just like brute force. He got better. He learned more of the whole like technique and stuff. That's so cool though. Ooh, that was cool. Where it like all came together. I was expecting something with like the like dragons, like their mouths or something, but the fact that they like all just like snap together into like this like ice cage thing is cool. Sort of. I guess at this point, yes. It's complicated though. No. Does he not remember? I wonder why. Interesting. I wonder why he doesn't know his name or who his Soul Reaper is. I wonder why he's different. Does that have something to do with like his like purpose or like what drives him and stuff? Dang. Why are we picking fights when we're stumbling around? Like, because if he's in a weakened state, right? And he doesn't like have a Soul Reaper anymore, like, does that make it more difficult for him to heal or get better? Like, what happens when they get injured when they're separate from their Soul Reaper? Because I feel like if they were weakened before, they could share in like the whole spiritual pressure, right? Because we've seen that before where they get damaged and then like once the Soul Reaper gets their spiritual pressure back up to where it needs to be, it like fixes their Zanpakuto. So what happens if they're weakened and separate? Because like Muramasa doesn't have a Soul Reaper to go back to or to like pull spiritual pressure from. If he is actually a Zanpakuto, I'm still like kind of on the fence about that. I don't know, just like the idea that like his Soul Reaper isn't around anymore, but he is. I don't know, my brain is like that does not compute with what I know. I feel like there has to be a really interesting story behind where he's from and what Soul Reaper he's associated with. Oh, we're gonna get a little Toshiro backstory. That's so cute. I love how it was just like Shinzui being like, I don't remember the story either. The most chill. Oh, oof, dangerous. And you survived? Nothing. I think getting to see Momo interacting with her Zanpakuto is probably my favorite part of this episode because partly it's like the heartbreaking thing that I was talking about where I'm like, it can kind of go either way of whether or not it's like ridiculous hijinks or like heart-wrenching to see the Soul Reapers interacting with their Zanpakuto. But with Momo, I think it's really important that she needs to get to that place of more like self-assurance and being confident in herself. And she's already had like important people leave her. So having something like a Zanpakuto, which she thought she could rely on and would be something that she was bonded with forever, separate and want to separate with like the current almost like brainwashing but not really thing that's happening with them, I'm sure hits her in a different way than some of the other ones because she's already had that happen where she's felt like she could rely on someone, have them be a pillar in her life that would protect her and look after her, and then suddenly they're gone with what happened with Aizen. And kind of thinking of where this falls in her overall arc, you have to remember that this is like before some of the stuff that happens later on, but it's still a sore spot for her, and we got even like a glimpse of it. And again, she sees him as her captain, right? Like the picture that she saw of Aizen was when he was still a captain, when he was still the person that she admired and cared for and that kind of thing. She doesn't see who he became with all of the other stuff. So in her head, he's still that person. So the whole story of if you wait long enough, someone will come back to you, right? Is something that I feel like Momo has to outgrow. She has to take control of what's going on instead of sitting by and waiting for things to happen to her. So I think that her arc with reclaiming her Zanpakuto is going to be really interesting because it's going to be more of her feeling like she's capable and doing things on her own terms and proving herself, which I think will be very rewarding for her. And then of course getting into Toshiro's Zanpakuto, who doesn't remember his name and doesn't remember who Toshiro is, which I think is interesting. Why is he different and why doesn't he have that kind of memory? I like that we're going to be getting, it looks like a little bit of a backstory of how Toshiro got his Zanpakuto, which I think will be adorable because tiny Toshiro is just like so cute. But I want to know why he's a little bit different, why him separating from Toshiro resulted in that memory loss and that lack of self. I wonder if that is tied up with what his purpose is in a different way from the other Zanpakuto that we've seen up to this point. And I'm also just continuing to be curious about Muramasa and like where his origins are and how he fits into everything and like who his Soul Reaper was and why he ended up the way that he did, because he's not having his thoughts pulled and controlled in the same way because he's doing that to the other Zanpakuto as opposed to that happening to him. So I wonder what has motivated him to this point of feeling like he needs to release these Zanpakuto and give them freedom and give them like freedom of choice and that kind of thing from their Soul Reapers. I wonder why he feels like he needs to do that. So still lots of questions up to this point, but I like that now they know that they can reconnect with their Zanpakuto, that it's a little bit of a different playing field. It doesn't have the same hopeless feeling. It does still feel a little bit overwhelmed though. I feel like everyone is still kind of reeling from what happened, even though they have at least a little bit of an idea of what to do next. But we're seeing that there's a little bit of tension now with Byakuya's squad because he's left them. He's getting a little bit out of hand with his squad and them not really knowing what to do with themselves. And we still have Kenpachi, who's just like somewhere, but I'm sure his squad is probably doing all right, all things considered. They're probably chaotic by default, so they might be all right. So there's still lots of these little things happening in the background of these episodes and still a lot of questions. I still have to remember that this is filler, so I can't really pull as much from it as I would like forward into other things because I'm sure that they probably knew something about what was going to happen, but it's still not necessarily something that I want to like pull absolutely everything from and apply it to stuff that's going to be happening later. But you can click this playlist to go and see my previous reactions, or you can subscribe so this next time I post a Bleach reaction, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!